How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me about Muslims illegal immigration, none. Not even one will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked not about illegal immigrants. I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude Juncker, the Commission President, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people are expecting from our government. That's number one. This is why our government was elected. But this is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland. And we can be called populists, nationalists, racists. I don't care. I care about my family and about my country.
So you watch that, right? So a country can say statistically, from what region gives me the least amount of crime?
Yeah.
Any country can pull up data and say, okay, Muslims that come from XYZ country, they're civil, they're great, we'll welcome them. Muslims that come from here, no. Our most crime comes from here. Christians from this place, Jews from this place, this from this place, Buddhists from this place. It's not hard to pull up data and say, this is what we're willing to receive.
Well, it actually is hard to pull up data because nobody collects that data.
If I was to pull up right now...
You're not allowed to collect that data in most countries.
Why? In the US we can. You're saying in Europe, most countries you cannot?
Most countries you're not allowed to collect
Why is that considered what? Like discrimination?
The effects would be what Kathy Newman would call racist.
This may sound strange to you, but it is true. You are literally not allowed to collect that data. It is illegal to collect, let alone use this data for anything. So if an European nation has a cohort of Romanian criminals running wild within its borders, it cannot actually reduce the number of Romanian immigrants it lets in. In early January of 2025, a 6-month-old baby girl was murdered in a car park crash after a vehicular collision caused by a Mr. Flaviu Nagy, who is apparently from Wigan. The baby suffered with her injuries for about a day before giving up the ghost. 33-year-old Nagy has now been arrested by the police and has been charged with drunk driving, drug driving, driving without a license, and driving without insurance. So this fellow who's supposed to be from Wigan got into a car while drunk and high, drove without a license, and got into an accident where a 6-month-old child lost her life. He will be housed in a British prison and will live on the taxpayer's dime if he gets convicted. He will spend maybe 5 or 10 years in prison and will then be released back into the public in the hopes that he is rehabilitated. Here is how Douglas Murray describes this crisis.
People from Somalia, particularly young men, land in your country. They will bring a certain level of violence, which the Ukrainian women moving into Poland will not bring. Now that's common sense, but it's also difficult. And the desire, as Kathy Newman shows there, to simply say, well, that's racist, or the facts are racist, is overwhelming. And at the moment, that still works in terms of shutting down any of this discussion. I mean, I always say there are only three things with immigration that really matter: speed, numbers, and identity. Speed, numbers, and identity. You can integrate large numbers of people relatively fast if the identity is pretty close. You can integrate a small number of people with a very different identity if it's a small number and the speed is slow. If you do fast, large numbers with a very different identity, you've not got a hope of integrating. You've just not got a hope. Why would they? They can live in communities with other people who are like them, and they don't need to be part of your society. And if you have no punishment, as it were, for not integrating, then there's no incentive. And one other thing, so remember what we're dealing with in the 21st century is a lot of people leaving very benighted countries where the standard of living is just horrific by our standards, and when they come into societies like this one, Western societies in general, particularly with the welfare state, you can have a much better standard of living than you could dream of in the country you've come from. We don't know what to do about that. We just don't know what to do about it.
That is the truth, isn't it? Our politicians really have zero clue what to do about it. Instead of tackling the issues with immigration by moderating speed, numbers, and identity, they've decided to leave all of that up to the whims of ever-present activists and ideologically possessed bureaucrats and politicians. This is a game that can be played 1,000 times, but the results will remain the same. It is impossible to successfully integrate so many people with very different identities during a short period. It just will never work. Here is how Douglas Murray puts it.
Or data of what types of migrants coming in are creating a positive, net positive valuation.
No, nobody wants to do that.
Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Because then you might get some results you don't want. I mean, for instance, why don't we have crime stats for Germany, for instance, which is one of the countries that have taken the largest number of migrants in the last decade?
There's no crime stats for Germany?
You can't break them down by demographic.
Who thinks that's a good idea?
Do it for France. That's a really interesting one.
Crime
France
stats for France. Okay. By demo is what you're asking.
Yeah.
Can you see if you can find that, Rob? Number of violent crime offenses in France, 2016 to 2023. Okay. Damn. So it shows the growth, but it doesn't show. Rob, I have it from Statista. I just sent you the link if you can pull that up. And you'll notice a good amount of climb, almost 100% in the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you have that right there, Rob. That's what it's shown to 2023.
Something happened.
What did happen?
Well, we don't know because we don't have the facts.
Are you trying to tell me that no one on the conservative side has the brass or the ability to get in there and find ways to get the data, not even independently research organizations?
It's extremely hard to do. I mean, there are groups. I mean, Migration Watch in the UK has tried to do some of it. You can't collect. It's very hard to collect crime stats, particularly when, as in most countries on the continent, the identities of the accused are kind of hidden from the public. There's a trend in the reporting, for instance, in Germany of any crime that you don't give the name of the person. You do first name and then letter. Same thing in the Netherlands.
It looks like European governments have found an interesting way around confronting the immigration and assimilation problem. Instead of actually facing the problem, they have decided to hide it and make it almost impossible for anyone else to figure it out. In America, you could pull up crime stats categorized by demographic and reach policy conclusions from it. But for some reason, no country in Europe allows you to do that. We know that crime has reached new heights all over in Europe since 2015, but we cannot tell just how much immigration is contributing to that crisis. The incredible thing is that this sort of opaqueness from European governments only fuels far-right parties, as they can now point to the data and say, without any evidence, that it is all due to immigration. So, in a way, progressive parties are making their own situation worse by hiding the data from everyone. But will they stop? Here is what Douglas Murray thinks.
It's very important to collect properly. It's one of the most underreported crimes. A lot of women don't feel able to come forward. You should have a society in which people are willing to come forward, and you should have a society in which when an increase in rape happens or sexual assault, the society worries about it because something's going wrong. For instance, if it's that the men who are already in the society are suddenly really getting into raping, you would want to find out what was causing them to do that. But it's possible that that's not the explanation. But you can't really know because we don't have data, it won't be collected, and it probably never will be.
Who in the right mind think that's a good idea to not pull up data? That's one. Second, why aren't the guys on the opposite side doing their part to pull up,
We don't know how many people are in our countries. We don't even have numbers. We round to the nearest million on illegals. In relatively small countries.
To millions?
We round to millions in countries about illegals. Never mind onto legals. About the best, most reliable data you can get on, I think, any Western country on this is the census that happens every 10 years in the UK. even that is not that easy to trust because it's massively underreporting people in very high density immigrant areas who I do not believe in their entirety respond to the form from the US data authorities, the UK data authorities that comes every 10 years. I'm just pointing out that this is just information we don't have. And when you say, well, why wouldn't we have that data? I'm saying because the data could be dangerous. It could be dangerous for the society. It would be used by some bad people for sure in a bad way. There would definitely be bigots and racists and pot stirrers who would, as with all dangerous things, pick it up and run with it. You might also say it's the right of the public to know. But my view is that for a long time, the view has been the public can't be trusted with the facts, so don't give them the facts.
The government doesn't think the people can be trusted with the facts, so it is hidden from them. What they don't know is that hiding these facts will just make people even madder and more distrustful of their government. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they care. If you enjoyed this video and enjoy listening to Douglas Murray, don't forget to smash the like and subscribe buttons. Goodbye, and see you on the next one.